Hello, this is Perry Mink. It is Saturday, June 1st, 2019, and I'd like to give an update. And also, this is uh, t- kind of a part two to the last video that I made, which was Jesus' Peace Doctrine on May 20th, 2019. I still have not heard any word about my property being returned to me, or there's not been one news release about the cruel and inhumane terrorist attacks on people who go down to the courthouse here in Martinez, California. And I still haven't seen any letter that is telling me from an investigator or an enforcer that my case is being investigated now, or that they would get back with me in a certain amount of time. I just haven't received any information. Yet we still see in the news that there are news releases when, horrific acts are occurring in this country, and the prosecutors are prosecuting. And my life was destroyed, completely destroyed. My house was taken from me. It was demolished. I paid $45,000 cash for it from the increased sales from my condominium in Pleasant Hill. This is here in central Contra Costa County. I earned that money myself. They stole my vintage childhood items, my tools. I took very good care of my belongings. They were my property, and my property belongs to me. And my health failed. My whole life was just completely ruined. And I'm continually asking for people to demand justice in this, because not only did I survive this, I got out of their control from holding me captive, is what they did, like a prisoner of war. And, how did I do that? Well, I'm a Christian, and, I worked on the Bible lessons while I was incarcerated, wrongly incarcerated. They forced me to Napa State Hospital, which I did everything I could legally to keep them from sending me there. And while I was there, I took numerous tests, very time-consuming, draining tests, and they still wouldn't do anything for me. And these are women that are in charge. The team that I had were two women. And the social worker, that's the two doctors, and then there was a social worker that was a woman from another country, from China, and sadly she wanted me to just forget about my fuzzy family, which is disturbing, because you really have to say, my ideas about animals are different. I need to recuse myself regarding that aspect of your family life, and either have somebody else intervene or write in the documents that their belief system is different, but not just tell that person, you need to forget about your beloved fuzzy family member. And I was referring to Candy and Stella, Stella was a pug, my pug from the pug rescue. And Candy, I had adopted. She was already 10 months old, because Elvira was so physically tortured, that Charlie, my cat, and Stella were just completely traumatized, as I was, and they became very depressed. and I adopted Candy, and not knowing what to do, but Candy came into my life, and she really brought us out of that trauma, that part of the trauma. So for those of you who don't know about my case, I was defrauded, I was swindled by a veterinary practice in Walnut Creek, California, and it was a total heinous fraud scheme, just an all-out secret planning fraud scheme to hurt both Elvira, my beloved pug, and me, and steal thousands and thousands of dollars from me. And the whole time they were just watching us suffer. Sadomasochistic doctors and staff members of this vet practice just watching us suffer. So with the help of other people, saying, well, to file a complaint, you contact the California Veterinary Medical Board. I didn't know. There's absolutely nothing in the veterinary practice, in the lobby or in the exam rooms, to tell you what your patient rights are. Client-patient rights is what it's called for veterinary services, because the human is the client and your pet is the patient. And so it's a combination client-pet relationship. There's nothing that tells you who to complain to protect your client-patient rights. Nothing. So a senior told me to, for filing complaints, you contact the California Veterinary Medical Board. And so that's what I did. Still being traumatized, totally traumatized. And they know this. They know that you're traumatized. And I suppose in one of my past videos, I also talked about the at-will. That was a law that they instituted for employment, and they snuck that in there. And so a manager or a owner of a business or whoever could just say, hey, I fire you at will. You don't even have to explain it. And so I guess the people that wiggled their way into the legislature changed the statute of limitations for professional negligence in a medical situation, which veterinarians fall under that same code. And so they changed that to 1 year statute of limitations. Well, they must have known that you would be traumatized, and 1 year is such a short amount of time. You're still traumatized. Anyway, I got a letter back from the vet board where they weren't going to do one thing based on the facts that I provided for them that had already occurred from this vet practice. It was like a 1 month and a half long swindle scheme, very heinous scheme where the client and the patient get injured and they steal your money. And so I guess the vet practice thought that then they could attack me more and ruin my pristine credit score of 820 regular and 802 auto and destroy my credit. And they lied to the collection agency. Well, I fought back because there was something wrong with what they were doing, because I was refusing. I was saying no to the services, but they leave you guessing, and that's your beloved fuzzy family member, and you don't know what to do. It's a medical situation. You don't know what to do. Not only that, it was on the inside of her body. What would I know about the inside of her body? I could take photos of the outside of her body to show a lump, but I can't take a photo of the inside of her body and show you what's going on in there. Anyway, they lied to the collection agency. They sent me the false statement. I now have a fraud case. Fraud cases are, and I thought before that point that it was some type of fraud because they kept I remember one of the last letters I wrote to the California Veterinary Medical Board was that they're fabricating information again. So I didn't know what to do. I was still physically injured because they had caused great bodily injuries on me too. And so I tried to find attorneys, and I guess at that time they were already sabotaging, without me knowing it, sabotaging my efforts to acquire rightful attorney representation. But the vet board, when I told the vet board and sent a copy of this false statement, they did send me a right to sue letter. And that is a letter that stated that they determined that it was regarding my feed dispute, which was what it was to begin with, that they didn't want to do anything. And so I was never through, I mean, it was just so traumatizing that I couldn't find an attorney. Unbeknownst to me, I guess the legal system was already keeping people from getting rightful attorney representation here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And the law says that you can represent yourself. And so I did. This is after speaking with, several attorneys, even going to San Francisco, 2 here in Contra Costa County, talking with 2 expert witnesses. One I mentioned about this particular one is a Jewish woman, and she wanted me to respect her Sabbath, which was coming up, and so our phone conversation had to be stopped, and I was very respectful. I've always been respectful of people's religion, and apparently, I guess she could care less about not only the animals and his beliefs in animal sacrifice, because if you study the history of Christianity, you'll know that the Jews believed in animal sacrifice, and that's why they were waiting for the Messiah, because they knew that it didn't work. And also, I talked about how the Catholics are from the Romans because they converted when Constantine converted to Christianity back in the early 300s AD. And so they also believed in animal sacrifice. They believed in human sacrifice. They were a sex and hate cult. So anyway, I represented myself, and that was perfectly legal. Spent more than half of my days studying, researching, and learning law, writing law. And I just have to thank the fact that I, have read the Holy Bible on a regular basis, and thank that I was able to, over the years, read the King James Bible, because that's a very different language, a very different type of English language spoken. And when you look at the law books, some of the words from that are in, some of these cases. And so I was writing some of my legal documents that had similar words that I've learned from the King James Bible. And those of you who have been watching my videos and reading my articles, parts 1 through 5, and the ones after that, know now that the United States was created based on and influenced by John Calvin, who was one of the Protestant reformers. He's after Martin Luther. So his doctrine is different than Martin Luther. And that's in one of my articles. So I can post those down in the comments. The reason that I bring up about the Bible is because the legal system here knew that I'm Christian, and so do the people that I've worked with. They know that I'm Christian. The men that I've met in my life know that I'm Christian. And they could be calling themselves a Christian, but they're not. I'm speaking about the men. They're not Christians. They're just calling themselves a Christian, and part of that is because they think that the relationship between a man and woman means that the woman is supposed to submit to the man for sex. That's not what it says in the Bible. They also think that the woman is supposed to be submissive to the man, and that's not in the Bible either. That's not the teachings of Jesus Christ. It's the complete opposite. So what I want to continue with from my last video, Jesus Peace Doctrine from May 20th, 2019, is I was talking about the Trinity and that I practice the Peace Doctrine, Jesus, the Prince of Peace Doctrine, and they keep twisting and warping my demeanor and my character, claiming that that's something that I'm making up, or that I'm plastic, or that the religion that I'm practicing is something that's in my head, that that I don't have a right to be a Christian, that I don't have a right to be a female Christian. And that's just very disturbing. And these are women in the legal system that are Catholic, Jewish, and the appointed attorney, the terrorist, one of the biggest terrorists who told me that my case is a death sentence, and she really tried to do me in, along with presiding Judge Diana Becton, who, by the way, claims to have studied theology and has a master's degree, I believe it is. These women are not there to do their job. They are ruining unsuspecting people who go down to the courthouse. But Jane Elliott, the appointed attorney who practically made me so sick and did make me sick that I couldn't even maintain my swamp cooler on top of my mobile home anymore. I couldn't even get up on the roof anymore, and I could barely lift the bundles. I had to separate them and carry them in like three separate, three separate times. The bundles have like three different sections or two different sections, and I had to separate it. And so Jane claimed to be a Quaker. These women are pathological liars. So I do practice, but Jane did write in a letter, and I did post that on Facebook. It is there, the evidence is there, a letter saying that she knew that I'm peaceful, that I'm peaceably protesting against the legal system, against the judicial system, which I was peaceful the whole time. There was no threat. Yet that was what they charged me with, that I'm a threat. There was no threat. It was a bogus charge. They just wanted to take me away so that I couldn't have rightful justice. Last video, I was talking about the Trinity, and that the Catholic Church practices and does talk about their doctrine includes the Trinity. And I believe, if I remember right, in studying the history of Christianity, they're the ones that created that concept. But there was a lot of argument, even before Constantine converted to Christianity. There was a lot of disagreement in the early church in the first, after Jesus had been crucified, because the early Christians were being persecuted, and they would start claiming that they were, this and that, and none of it was true. And so they kept saying things like, even stuff like that they were cannibals and they were drinking people's blood because of the blood of Christ. And that wasn't what it was. And they were saying things that they believed in this Trinity concept, but that's not what they were believing in. And so they had to speak up against this concept of Trinity. Well, I didn't understand that when I was learning in the early part of me, when I converted to Christianity. I didn't understand that. I knew, though, after going to different churches, that some churches did practice this so-called Trinity, and some did not. Some Christian denominations did not. And recently, though, I looked up about the terms and the definitions for this Trinity concept. But before, I just heard the word Trinity, and I was going by what I learned when I read the Bible, thinking that's what they meant. But I was wrong. They think that it means that and that they have this diagram where it's kind of confusing, where one is this and one is that and one is that, and then this is not that and this is not that and this is not that, and that's not what it is either. So I was clarifying that in my last video, that I am practicing the Jesus Prince of Peace doctrine. And so I ended up on citing the scripture from 1 Corinthians 13:13, and here's my King James Bible again, and it was this one right here, if you could see it. And it says, "And now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity." And I thought that I had written it down because I had taken notes, and I started saying in my video, I thought I wrote it down and I couldn't find it. So I was inspired last night, and I looked it up because I've been so stressed out. Winnie, you can see he's behind me. He needs to get his lump on his eyelid removed, and he has some other lumps on him, and that's going to be happening soon. And I'm still being treated very bizarre out in the community at the stores that I normally shop at, or even if I tried to go to another one of their locations, because I guess and I don't know how they track me. I don't. It's the complete opposite of what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to track the person who's doing illegal acts, and the victim, is the one that's protected. And just on a little side note here, in the early mid-90s, I was mugged early in the morning, about 8 o'clock in the morning. I was walking out to my car. I lived out in Point Richmond in Contra Costa County, West Contra Costa County, which is considered a nice area. And I was on my way to pick up a college friend, and I was going to drive us to the Pumpkin Festival out in Half Moon Bay. So I was in my regular attire. I was probably just, my simple, plain self, but I had my backpack, and at that time, I carried a purse. And what do you know? I got mugged. And at that time, the police out there, the Richmond police, immediately, as the law states, you immediately, although they were delayed from coming out, and I went over to the fire department, which was like up the street a little bit, like half a block to a block away. And I remember the two firemen separate times came to check on me, and the first fireman, and it's very disturbing to have to talk about this, but it's happening and is what goes on in this community in Contra Costa County. The first fireman was concerned about me, okay, because I was attacked, and he was a white man. The second one, a black man, came up to me and was mocking me. And I don't know why this was happening. And I was shocked, okay? And it turned out that when they investigated, because it took a while for the police to come out because they were on some other crime that was happening at that moment. But there was a witness. I can't remember who talked with who or what now. I can't, it might still be in the reports, but I can't remember it. But so at that time, the investigation kept going on, and the detective on the case followed the law. Everything was done accordingly. They protected my rights, immediately told me you need to contact this place, and what the status was, what the progress was. If this happens, contact me at this number right away. And I did what they told me. And then after it was all done, the weird thing was, one morning I get a call from Harrah's Hotel in Reno, and it was I can't remember what the title is, but it's the head maid master, the person that's in charge of doing the maid, the supervisor said, "Hey, we just got your checkbook and like an IDs or something, and we have it here." And I said, "What? Those were stolen from me. I was mugged. Okay, I got to call the detective right now." And it was like before I even got a hold of the detective on the case, the Harris Hotel had already contacted their investigation, and I think I must have called like within 10 to 15 minutes. And when the detective got on the phone with me, he said, "We already got the person in custody." And I was like, my goodness, that was so fast. I was like, I thought I just hung up the phone with this maid supervisor and then got on the phone with the detective. To make a long story short, they put a long-term protection on my driver's license that said that I was to be protected because I was targeted because of my appearance. And a lot of people think I'm a tourist. I'm not an aggressive person. Barbara Zuniga knew this. Judge Barbara Zuniga knew this, yet she still claimed I was a threat to her. I was no threat to her at all. So do you see how disturbing this is? Because it was, and by the way, the detective on that case was a white man, okay? The women at the judicial system here, the legal system, are white women with the exception of Diana Becton, who came later on after Barbara claimed that I was a threat. So something is wrong with those women, okay? They're the ones that started it. Marianne O'Malley, who'd been there for all those years, and I guess those women were seeking sex in the workplace. And so they degraded and made the legal system substandard at the DA's office because Barbara Zuniga and Marianne O'Malley started off in the district attorney's office here in Martinez, just down the street from me. And Jane Elliott, apparently she had tried to become a private investigator but couldn't make it. And so some man that she was seeing, I don't know, I asked investigators, was she having a personal relationship with him? He told her, "Oh, you could buy your house if you get a job at the public defender's office." So she did. Now did she get a reference from that man? I don't know. But it wasn't the public defender office here. She got one in the public defender's office just up north of here. And these are these women, and they claim to be Christians. They're claiming to be Christians. It's so upsetting. It's so disturbing. I'm still traumatized by what they did to me, holding me captive, depriving me of food, depriving me of medical care, knowing that my health had deteriorated already, knowing that I was supposed to get a settlement in the first year that I filed my rightful civil case against Encina Veterinary Clinic Incorporated et al. Okay, so back to this peace doctrine that I practice, the Prince of Peace, Jesus, the Prince of Peace doctrine. So I cited this from the King James Bible, 1 Corinthians 13:13. And then when you go down to 13:14 and you read the first passage there, it says, "Follow after charity and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that ye may prophesy." And I guess some people say prophesy. I say prophecy. And then there's references. So next to charity, you can see there's a 1. So then you look down at the reference and it says Ephesians 5:2. So I go to Ephesians 5:2, and 5:2 says, "And walk in love, as Christ also hath loved us, and hath given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling savor." And so that also references, but I wanted to speak about the how this 1 Corinthians 13:13 and the 3 that I mentioned, the faith, hope, charity, and uh, bring back the scripture from my last video about those 3, which was Ephesians 4:4 and 4:5 and 4:6. And you might remember I was saying 1 and 1 and 1 and 1, 1. So it said this was about the Spirit in the bond of peace. This is under unity of the Spirit. That was the scripture I was reading about what I learned as the Trinity, because Trinity means 3, but this is how I understood it. I didn't understand it the way that they describe it in the dictionary and online, how these people are talking about it and how they claim that it's from pagan teachings. I learned it from the Bible. And so it said one body and one spirit, right? And ye are called in one hope, right? That was 1 right there. One Lord, one faith, one baptism. That was 1 there. So that is the unity for that one. So now we're at 2. And then the third one, one God and one Lord, one faith. Oh, I said that too. And then one God and one faith of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. And so there were the 3, which falls under faith, hope, charity. So those are the 3 that I learned, which falls under the unity of the Spirit, which is the Spirit in the bond of peace. So that's what I understand as the 3, and that is the peace doctrine. So I hope that you understand now why I keep speaking out, because I'm being destroyed, I'm being criticized, I'm being degraded, I'm being lied about, slandered, libeled, because I'm practicing a bona fide religion, and it's right there in the Bible. I didn't make it up. I didn't make up the definition of the peace doctrine. It's written in the New Testament. Okay, if you do a little bit more research, you'll find that it references into the Old Testament, and then that references back into the New Testament, and then you would even see it in the first 4 Gospels. You'll see it in John, and I know that for sure. So this is why I'm speaking out, because we have Christian churches here in this community, all kinds of denominations, all kinds. And for these women at the legal system to destroy me, literally, actively, participatingly, daily, regularly, influencing others, lying about me, slandering me about my sex life, day in and day out, so that this vet practice could get away with heinous veterinary fraud schemes is just absolutely horrific. And to see the federal government take so long to stop these women from doing this to unsuspecting females in the community, and they are attacking other people. They're attacking white men. They're attacking couples that are multiracial, like a white man and an Asian woman, that don't have anything to do with the judicial system. And it's sick. So what I need is for as many people to just keep demanding contact, because this is happening to people that are coming here from another country. At the vet practice, I remember a woman there, a middle-aged, maybe in her 50s woman, who had a European accent. And she really trusted this vet practice. She would bring her beloved pet in one of those pet carriers with the wheels. I had one of those, and these people stole it. The Gov stole it. I used it for my beloved Elvira, and I need it now. That wasn't cheap. I bought it brand new. Okay, they keep trying to make me out to be some kind of a slum woman. Like I'm some kind of a scum baby. I was born here in the Bay Area. My parents were married and had us 4 siblings. They moved down to the Monterey Bay Area, and both of them had careers, both of them professional. It was a different time then. Okay, so my dad with his eye disability, he was able to stay at the same workplace for the entire time until he retired and he got a pension. Although it wasn't a highly paying job, he still was accepted in the workplace. My dad, as I mentioned before, comes from, on the paternal side, is Finnish, but we do have Ashkenazi Jew on that side of the family. And we come from, I had my DNA tested, and there's a large percentage from the region of Europe in France, Belgium, and Germany. And then there's also a large percentage in the 17%, could be higher, 17% English DNA. But my mother's side is her DNA, as I mentioned before, just quickly, her mother's family is from Russia, and then her dad is from the Asian, Japan. It's a large area. Japan, China, and Vietnam it includes for that part of the DNA. How do I know which side it's coming from? Because I was interested in genealogy since junior high school. And so I asked my parents about questions about the family, and so that's how you start to learn, because they'll say, well, we think that we're from here, from there, my mom's from here, or we did think on my dad's side that part of the family was from the Isle of Man, which is in the UK, but it turns out that we weren't. I still thought that was true when I was fighting my case, that there were some relatives that were from the Isle of Man, but that's not true at all. So for them to discriminate against me and then claim in the news that therefore women's rights is just absurd. These people are terrorists. I mean, outright terrorists, malicious, hardcore criminal terrorists. And they're doing this to unsuspecting people. I mean, even I don't want to name names, but I've heard other people, for instance, I was staying temporarily in Lafayette, which is a very nice community in central Contra Costa County. I rented an apartment there, a very nice apartment there, while I was doing the home improvements to my condominium, because my condominium is so tiny, I could not work on what I wanted to with all my belongings there because I was taking off the popcorn ceiling and doing the flooring, putting pergo down and so forth. And the landlord there, who had a nice fourplex, is a German woman from Germany. And I remember her telling me that there was a problem in how she was being treated by the sheriff's department and the legal system, and she just could not handle it. She had health issues as well. She had some serious, I don't know what the medical issue is, but it has something to do with your digestive system, and I don't understand it, but it's something that was causing her to have to tend to on a regular basis. And so that it dawned on me much later, like just in the last year and a half, that I'm still fighting this case, which is still active, by the way. Thinking back, wow, she was being discriminated by the legal system too. This is a white German lady with blonde hair from Germany with money, and they were going after her too. What is going on? So the haters are in the legal system. What is it that is really going on? This sex and hate cult that is stemming from the Catholic Church here in this area, this Novus Ordo that is causing this problem, and they've infiltrated into the legal system and just completely ruined unsuspecting people's rights. And instead they're slandering us and sexualizing us, going into our sex lives all day long. That's how they're spending taxpayers' money, okay? My sex life before this vet practice fraud scheme on me, this huge swindle on me, has absolutely nothing to do with my sex life. Yet that's what they keep trying to look at, because it gives them the right under the Holy See, the Roman Catholic Holy See canon laws. It gives them the right to lie about the victim, make the person into a scandal, and you can get rid of them. And that's justified. They're going to go to heaven. Hey, we did the right thing. We get to live our life. That's what they believe in. The bad person, the corrupt person, the one who's causing the harm is part of their group. And so they protect that. That's totally illegal. It's called organized crime. We're still under California law. We're here in the United States. And it falls under RICO, okay? And that's what I'm demanding, and everybody else needs to demand it too. The way that they're doing this is to steal from the taxpayer. So the Catholic feels like, hey, we don't have to pay taxes. You just steal the money. Don't pay the taxes, steal the taxpayers' money, infiltrate into the government, do your own thing, practice the Novus Ordo, practice the Catholic teachings, practice the Catholic action. Hey, a lot of these people come from Catholic families that were abusive to them. They become ex-Catholics or don't even know it. They're then the third generation. Their MO is the same as ours. Hey, they're part of our sex and hate cult. Look, they're having they're going to sex clubs. They're having same sex. Hey, they want to get rid of people. That's how you do it here. No, it's not how you do it here. It's not whatever you want to do. That's not how this works in the United States here in California. They're still doing this to me. I went to Safeway, not the one just yesterday, but last week, I believe it was. And I was in another Safeway, not the one here in Martinez. And they wanted to, oh no, that was not at that Safeway. That was at Lucky here in Martinez. And they wanted me to, no, gosh, I'm getting confused now. They're still doing it. Okay, that's all I know. But okay, Lucky was mocking me about the checking a price. Okay, that was at Lucky here in Martinez. Safeway in another town was claiming that that they have no cash back. Okay, and I questioned it, and she says, "Oh, you could do whatever you want." I said, "No, you can't do whatever you want. The total comes up to this amount, and that's what I'm paying." So that's what they're teaching. And in my articles, I talk about that, how they are using words to influence our society so that they can trap you and indict and convict you and make you into a criminal at will, or make you mentally ill at will. That is illegal. That is absolutely illegal. Do you understand the abuse that's going on? They're influencing an unsuspecting person to do something illegal. So then that gives them the right, the legal system, the right to then take you into custody, or claim that you just committed a crime, or that you are mentally ill. That's how they're doing it. And they're targeting certain people that they don't like. So if you're not part of their family, okay, you're not part of the Catholic Church, you're not part of the Friends at the AG, that's the Attorney General here in California, the CAG, or they're friends that are operating these businesses here in the community, these small businesses, the auto mechanics, the veterinary practices, these mom and pop places that are being influenced, or their family members, to commit these fraud schemes where you're either kept guessing, or you paid for services that they did not render but you don't know it, or it's a scam where they damage another part of your property when you leave it behind. So it could be your computer, okay, or they just send, there's all kinds of scams that they can do that would then cause you to have to seek more services. It's totally illegal. It's completely and absolutely illegal. There are politicians that want to stop this, but who knows what happens to them. Then you have the other aspect of this scam, which is the sex addiction. And so there's some kind of a hatred towards people who are decent. They're completely satisfied with one partner. It could be a man or a woman. And they will attack your character because you want to live with one person, or you want just one intimate relationship in your life. But at the courthouse, they're living a double life. They're going to sex parties. They're wife swapping. They're in, clubs that I can't even mention on here. I want to keep this one rated so that anybody could watch it. So you could read my articles and you'll learn more about it. There's articles from somebody else, news article, that talks about the seedy sex culture. At the courthouse, it still goes on. They believe that they have the right to keep from the taxpayer what they are doing. They don't. It's not what goes on at the DA's office stays at the DA's office. No. It's not what goes on at the courthouse stays at the courthouse. No. So I recently wrote another article because other groups are fighting against this human trafficking. And that's what these government officials here, these people in the legal system and politicians, are actually participating in. And you have to tell people, you have to warn them, these people are going to restaurants and they're targeting these young waiters and waitresses. They want to, and you have to wonder, why do these sheriff deputies and the court staff and so forth call the West County Detention Facility the Jilton after the Hilton Hotel. Why? Because they're taking young waiters and waitresses to the hotel and pretending like they're having a party there, and hey, we're going to the Hilton, and then really they're trapping them and it's a sex party, and then they got their rocks off. Hey, look, we manipulated these young adults into going to a sex party. They're promoting promiscuity, they're promoting human trafficking. And so we are people are losing their rights and have been for decades now. They've been doing this down here at the courthouse for decades. It's something they practice in the Catholic Church. Please keep demanding justice. It's June 1st, 2019. My case is still active. I had um, a notice of stay of proceedings filed, and it was served according to law. And my case is still active. I proved that the criminal case that they forced me into, it was a terrorist attack on me, People versus Mink. And the people never got to speak, okay, because they kept terrorizing them. The people never got to speak because they kept terrorizing them. Yet, I had gotten people who would help me serve the papers because they had sabotaged, long before I came along, sabotaged the businesses who are supposed to provide professional process service. Yet the business that I had contacted and hired were doing something illegal. They knew it. They're doing it on purpose. It's totally illegal. It's organized crime. Yet the people that I knew and who knew me spoke out by serving the papers according to law. Yet they wanted to get rid of them. So these were seniors and people that I worked with, teachers, okay, a retired state investigator. And so they would sabotage the people, okay, the people versus Mink. They would sabotage the people who wanted to help me. Those are the people that were speaking out. So they kept from the public what the people were really doing. But the DA, who is representing their own people, which is their sex and hate cult, which is derived from the Catholic Church under Novus Ordo, and really it stems before that time. I say stems from the time of Constantine, because if you notice, traditional Catholics never talk about how Constantine converted to Christianity because of his mother, and then he converted the Romans to Christianity. And the Romans are pagans, and they were practicing sex and hate. Okay, so they never admit to the media that the DA is not really the people. The district attorney and the public defender is practicing their sex and hate cult. So the People versus Mink case, which is a terrorist attack on me personally, and really a terrorist attack on my blood family relatives who they went after people that I've worked with. That's terrorism. There was no legal reason to go after anybody that I had worked with, any family members of mine, blood family members, none whatsoever. They went after people that I worked with from years ago, people that helped me buy my condominium, all illegal, indict and convict them. And that's how they're spending taxpayers' money. Stealing. They're not representing the people, they're representing their sex and hate cult. So I know other people here in the community that have businesses they're white people or multiracial couples, and they're harassed by the government system. I remember, and this didn't click till about a year ago, that when I sold my condominium, the man that I got, the real estate agent, who I thought was doing really well selling another neighbor's property, turned on me for some reason. I had no idea why, but started representing my condominium as something that it wasn't. Okay, he listed it as a studio condominium. In fact, it is a 1-bedroom condominium. So I had to fight that. Eventually, I had to fire him. I don't know why it drug out so long, my sale. It was like he was doing it on purpose. I have no idea. I don't have any evidence that he was doing anything other than that he listed it illegally. And I remember I had to call for an executive meeting with the head of the real estate agency that I had hired. And I went in my power suit and everything was all written out. And so they had reassigned the head agent to then take over. And then when I went to close, I was going to meet the new buyer, which I guess they frown on, but I wanted to give some things to that person. And they said, well, the electricity is off and it doesn't work. Turns out that PG&E, this is me thinking last year about all the harassment that I've received from PG&E, because they're doing this through the landlord, through the housing authority, Contra Costa Housing Authority, and the VA HUD-VASH program housing. And when I went to meet with the people, they had turned off the electricity. And so at that point, when I went to meet them, I told them that that's what it was working before. And then I found out that it was PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, had shut it off, which they weren't supposed to do. And so the community and the PG&E executive, one of the executives, I don't believe is there now, is the brother of the commissioner, Joel Golub, in Walnut Creek, who was hearing the cases with Encina Veterinary Clinic Incorporated et al., which they were allowing them to file under Encina Veterinary Hospital. And they were in cahoots with law enforcement, allowing this veterinary practice to commit this heinous veterinary fraud scheme on the clients and their beloved fuzzy family members. And so they knew that they were doing it. That's organized crime. That is very horrific to allow them to do that to unsuspecting people and to torture the animals. They believe in animal sacrifice, and that is illegal in this country. Animal sacrifice that they are committing at these veterinary practices is the new animal sacrifice, because they're gloating and getting a thrill, thinking that they're doing something good by torturing these animals and killing them, torturing them to death, while stealing your money, while running illegal experiments and then stealing thousands and thousands of dollars. All right, so please just keep complaining. I mean, complain to the USDA, complain to the California AG again, because they seem to think that what goes on at the AG can stay at the AG. So please keep complaining. Complain to, if you're from California, complain to your representative. Complain to the President of the United States. Complain to I wrote in my last article, because I used my Royal Bank of Scotland credit card, I posted or listed a link in my last article, and I could put that in the comments below. And that's a complaint to the Royal Bank of Scotland. And then you can explain to them to complain to the New Scotland Yard. So the more people that keep complaining, because this is just horrific. This is vile behavior. This is so evil, just sinister, to allow this to keep going on. My blood relatives have nothing to do with it, and I would be wouldn't be surprised if they had done this to other people's family members. If you go down to the courthouse, I know they did that in the Dulesky case. They went after the mother. It's illegal. And I, would not wish this on somebody I didn't even like. This is not how the United States operates. It's all illegal. All right, thank you very much. This video is about 1 hour long. And thank you again for listening. And pray for Winnie. Winnie is going to the doctor this coming week. And I just ask that everybody pray that these women that keep harassing me and acting bizarre in the community stop doing it. I ask that everybody pray that these men get over their sex addiction. They're just like the Darren Mack case. I put that on my Facebook last night. A man out in Reno, Nevada, very wealthy, was manipulating his wife to go to all these sex clubs and sex orgies and sex, multiple sex relationships. And the relationship deteriorated. The man was scary and he ended up killing her. I mean, this is what we're dealing with down here at the district attorney's office and the public defender and the judges in the court system, and even connected to the Court of Appeal in San Francisco. These people are very dangerous people. They tried to kill me, and I'm sure that they've killed other people, hoping that they would get a heart attack, a stroke, would die of cancer. That's what they're hoping on me. So thank you again. And when he's sleeping, he had a bath today. And thank you for listening. And God bless you. And I know the other people, they want to go to hell. They think they're going to heaven. They're going to hell. That's not me saying it. That's how it's written in Christianity, in the Bible. That's just, and I've seen just a little bit of a, snippet. I've seen throughout my days practicing Christianity that somebody had offended me because I love Jesus with all my heart. And during my Christian fellowship groups with women, there was one lady from New Zealand who, by the way, in my other video, I talk about her and her husband were targeted here. They lived in Walnut Creek and they were targeted. They were set up. The husband, I don't know who or what woman or what police officer, if it was even, but he ended up going to a nightclub and these women, I guess, were enticing him and they arrested him on some charge, I don't know. And he ended up in jail. I didn't want to ask too many questions because I know that's a, really, it's a scary situation and you don't understand it. It could be construed, as an embarrassment. But now I almost think that if that case were investigated, it very well could be that he was set up. They are Christians from New Zealand, non-denominational, and they will set you up. These police officers and DA and the judges will set up unsuspecting people here in the community, and they will try to influence you to do something illegal or scandalous or could come across mentally ill, and they will process you accordingly, but you were trapped. So don't participate in it. I hope I've completed what I was going to say. I went and talked about how they will trap you, and they did that to the New Zealand couple, that would try to influence you. I'll look back at this, and if I kind of lost track of what exactly I was trying to say, why I talked about the New Zealand couple. I think it's because they will target you. All right, thank you very much. Oh, about the hell. It does say that. Oh, yes. So so the New Zealand couple, I just remembered, the wife is who I was doing the fellowship with. And I don't play the guitar very well, especially if it's chords. I play better if it's classical, but I have to look at the music, and then that's the only way I can do it, and I'm slower at doing it. But her husband played electric guitar and was very talented, and I never heard him, but played in the Christian band. And we would do Christian fellowship, and she taught me how to do a structured Christian fellowship where it was where you started off with you could start off with a prayer, and then you had a Christian song, hymn, and the person, you would rotate who was hosting, and so that person would pick the song. Then you'd have 15 minutes each to talk about your experiences with God in your life. It could be current or past, or it was your choice. And then at the end, if you wanted to do prayer request, or that was the structure, and it was about an hour long. And I remember one day I was playing Kumbaya on the guitar, my new Taylor guitar, which the government broke, brand new, like a $700, $800 guitar, beautiful, and they broke it. And I was playing the guitar really slow. I have to look at the music. And one of the gentlemen that we know from our job walked through the lounge area where we were playing. It was in Rossmore, Walnut Creek, in the retirement community, because that's where we worked, and we would meet there for Christian fellowship once in a while, or we would meet in our homes, or it was very flexible. And he didn't say anything to us, but my guitar playing was not well at all. It was like beginner, super beginner. Well, we were shocked, but it was either Monday or Sunday morning, because we were delivering newspapers in the early morning, and then we had day jobs or whatever, part-time day jobs and so forth, and we found out that he drowned. Okay, they went to some lake up north, and he drowned, and I was like, oh my goodness, because people who are so degrading of Jesus and what Jesus means, and what the Jesus, the truth, the way, and the life, the Prince of Peace doctrine, if they insult that in such a way, and they do that to someone who just loves Jesus and is doing the best that they can. I've seen it. This happened when I was working at the auto parts store in Oakland. It was a family-owned business, but it was pretty large. They had 3 stores, and I was really my Christian self, quiet. I would listen to the Christian radio station because I got to drive the vehicle, and then I would leave the Christian radio station on. And this one or couple guys, I guess they were really gossipy. And what gossip means is that more than one person gets together, and you start mocking, insulting somebody else or other people. And then it could extend to actually causing a problem or harming them. So there was one guy there that was doing that about me. There was another guy there, a white guy, who one day wanted to talk with me. And so I was listening to what he was saying, and he was really, I could tell he was insulting his wife. And I thought that is just so mean. Okay. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh dear, I need to pray for this man and his wife. And I was shocked, though, that he was speaking like that. And I don't know if he had also been insulting me. But the next couple of days, I think that was over a weekend, I can't remember, but I was shocked that he was killed in a fluke accident where he was going on Highway 4 out here by Antioch or something, which is not too far from here. And there were what do they call it? Highway workers, California workers, and a pole that they were working on or something, it somehow got loose or something, and it just went through his windshield and it decapitated his head or something like that. That's what they told me. I don't know. I didn't read any news article, but he died. I was shocked. And I remember thinking, wow, that, you think, you see how close it is to the time that when your prayers are thinking about how could this person degrade their wife. That's unacceptable. You don't degrade your wife to somebody else. And so that, was shocking to me. But I mean, there are other situations like that. And it has that in the Bible. I don't know if I could find it right now. Let me see. Let's see if I could find it. Let's see if I can go here. I have let's see if I can find it real quick. But it was one of the last Christian fellowship groups that I had with another woman, and you could bring scripture in if you want and read that during your 15 minutes and talk about I think I had brought this particular scripture in, but I was talking about how you can study the Bible because in these Bibles, there's so many different Bibles, and each Bible writes the scripture a little bit differently. So let's see if I could find it. Let's see. Let's see if I could find it here. Let's see if I could find it. I believe it's in Matthew. Let's see if I could find it. Or is it in Matthew? Matthew 18? Is that it? What does it say? Let's see. Let's see if I could. I'm almost there. So it's Matthew 18:6. And it says, and this is Jesus talking. Let's go back here. And this is Jesus talking. It's right here. This one. I can't hold it. This one right here. But whosoever shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Okay, well, that's kind of hard to hear, and I never wished that on anybody. And the mysterious aspect of it is, as a Christian, when I read the New Testament, I'm believing in what I talked about, the peace doctrine, the unity of the Spirit, and the bond, with peace. So that scripture is not something that you wish onto somebody. You keep your spirit in the peace doctrine. The mysterious aspect of it is when you practice that peaceful spirit and a attacker, okay, a terrorist, a gossiper, a sinister, evil, vile person comes along, and then you notice that they all of a sudden were dead because of some situation that happened just like a day before or just hours before. It's like, my goodness, what, you know, this is laid out, written in the New Testament. So it's shocking. So do I say hell really exists? Christianity teaches that hell does exist, and I suppose some people don't believe in hell. I can say that before becoming a Christian, I did experience a life threatening, like a what do they call it? Afterlife experience when I was in surgery, and then I guess something happened, and then I became above what was happening in the room. And I've heard other people explain that too. And so when you die, your body would then go to another realm. And so depending on who you are as a person, you would go to whatever realm that there is. So before I became a Christian, I had learned that part of it. Now I have experienced people who have passed away, and the Bible is clear that you're not supposed to call on the dead. You're not supposed to ask them to come back to life or anything like that. Not even our beloved pets. Well, it doesn't say that aspect in the Bible, but life, you're not supposed to call it to come back, after death. But a loved one or somebody can make themselves present without you even calling upon that of which who has passed. And so I've experienced that, and I'm thinking of two people who have passed away, and that afterlife was just very beautiful, very serene, and very beautiful. So those are aspects of religions that are very complex. And so will somebody go to hell? As a Christian, based on the New Testament, I do not want to die without Jesus in my heart. I'm going to keep the love that I have with all my heart with Jesus in my heart. And you cannot take that away from me. It's a bona fide religion, and you're not going to take it away from me. Not Judah Sanders, Commissioner Judah Sanders, not Judge Barbara Zuniga, who claims to be a Catholic, not presiding Judge Mary Ann O'Malley, who claims to be Catholic. None of these women who claim to be a Catholic is going to take Jesus away from me. You're not going to do it. You're not going to take away Jesus, the Prince of Peace, away from me. All right, thank you very much. And for people who don't read the Bible, you don't believe in Christianity, you're practicing a different religion, you're agnostic, you're Buddhist, you don't even know, you're practicing your Native American religion. I'm asking everybody to understand that what they are doing down here in this community, in the legal system that's coming from the Catholic Church, people who have walked away from the Catholic Church, who have taught other people to practice this cruel Catholic MO and this sex and hate cult, be stopped. All right, thank you very much for listening to this extra 20 minutes that I've expanded on. All right. Thank you very much.